Welcome to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. And now your host, Tim Johnson.
As one of the state's largest employers, the Dow Chemical Company is critical to Louisiana's economy. We'll visit with Stacey Gautreau and Tommy Faucheaux of Dow when we return on this edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Consumers and property owners with construction projects can have a successful result or regretful experiences that could have been avoided. Before any construction project, verify licensure of the contractor and check references. Scammers will claim to be insured or bonded, so always check first. Download our app, LA Contractor, from the Android or Apple Store. Visit our website, lacontractor.org, or contact the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors. We're here to help before things go wrong. Hire a licensed contractor. It's the law.
Spidel's Florist was founded over 30 years ago. From my mom's kitchen, we have grown into one of the largest florists in this area. There's a sense in our community that you stick together. Good times or bad. And oil and gas is part of that family. They're my neighbors. They're my customers. They're the person I'm sitting next to at church. If oil and gas is doing well, all of our businesses are doing well. We are Louisiana Oil and Gas.
The Work Ready You program changed my life. There's opportunities for everything. You could be a welder, you could be a nurse. You can take any trade you want, and it's free. I dreamed of it as a kid, be successful, making a life for myself and making me a family. I always dreamed of it, but I never thought that I would be here and dreams come true.
For your free high school equivalency training, text diploma to 55,000 or give us a call.
Passion, experience, safety. These are what set Arkell Constructors apart as a premier general contractor. At Arkell Constructors, our goal is to exceed our clients' expectations, whether it's commercial, industrial, or facility maintenance. We have the team and processes in place to provide a solution for you. To us, every project is a resume for our future. Arkell Constructors, the solution for your next building project.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Very pleased to be joined by two Dow executives, Tommy Faucheaux and Stacey Gautreau. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. It's been a pleasure to watch your work and to be associated with you over the years. And I know, Stacey, you've got some pretty exciting news about some things taking place with Dow. Tell us about the new Dow.
Oh, very excited, and I think this show will air right before. So April 1, Dow will split from Dow DuPont and become the new Dow, and we are extremely excited about that. Many people know that for the last year and a half or so, we've been merged with DuPont, but when we split out, we will be a much more focused Dow, but still the great Dow that you know. We think that we're making a great company even greater, and we're very excited about that April 1.
Well, it is exciting news, and I know those who follow the industry closely know about the merger between DuPont and Dow, as you mentioned, 18 months or so ago, and now that's gone through its process, and the two companies will sort of split back off into their very specific roles again. And I know as employees of the company, you're very excited about that as well. Tommy, your perspective on it all.
We are excited, and I think you're right. I think if you talk to our employees, they're excited as well. Dow employees historically are very proud of the job they do and the company they work for. And I think that's one of the things that's always made us special. You'd imagine in Louisiana, if you work in our chemical industry, you're proud to be there. Chances are you're second, third, I think we're starting to see fourth generation. And that's the case for Dow. And so as we get ready to move into this new chapter, I mean, here you are taking a company that is more than 100 years old, been in Louisiana for more than 70 years, and people can say they're part of the new Dow.
How about that?
I mean, it's a lot to handle, but it is exciting. And personally for us, right, we're employees as well. We are as excited.
Well, you mentioned it. You get to couple all of that history in Louisiana and all of the wonderful products and innovation and science and technology that you've been on the forefront of now, and you're able to keep that and be proud of that as you launch a new era here. And it's something that you're looking forward to.
Absolutely, because, for for the past few years, we have been investing a tremendous amount of capital, especially on the Gulf Coast, Tim. I think it's been in the neighborhood of $10 to $12 billion to take advantage of the shale gas. And so now it's time to make money on that investment and get it to where our employees are quicker at making decisions. The organization will go from about a 13 business portfolio to 6 business portfolio in 3 different markets. So becoming real focused. Packaging and plastics will remain a hallmark to the new Dow. We'll have infrastructure and we'll have consumer goods. So the good news about Louisiana is when we spin into the new Dow on April 1, plastics and packaging will remain and be very, very strong in the new Dow.
Well, you know, anytime you go through something like this, you mentioned how excited the employees are. You mentioned how excited the company is. There are obviously things that, you know, that you're not sure of yet, but that you will work out as you go along. But you mentioned some of those products, Stacey, and one of the things I've said in the consulting work I do with industry is that we've got to really make sure that the rank and file Louisiana resident understands the importance of the products that this industry provides. Those of us who don't work in industry every day, we drive by these plants and we see stuff, we see big equipment, and we see gates and fences, and we see stacks, and we see things, but we don't always connect them to how they make our lives better every day. So you mentioned some of the products. Talk about some of the others and how they make our lives better immediately or eventually as finished goods.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to stay on plastics because it's near and dear to our heart. You know, you talk about, when you look at Louisiana and Dow being one of the largest employers here, Dow has the largest polyethylene footprint right here at Dow in Louisiana and within the Dow world. So it is tremendous, and our employees take such pride. They've been making this product for so long. They know everything about the process. They're amazing at technology and advancements, and they know the safety, which is critical to our communities. There's a lot of talk in the world today about hunger and food and plastic waste. And so that's all critical to us at Dow. When you drive by and you look at that plant, I want you to know and be able to tell your child when you go through the McDonald's drive-in that what kept those apple slices fresh was Dow plastic packaging. You know, I want us to talk about what kept your iPhone screen from breaking when you dropped it was Dow products. And so those are things that we're really working to bring younger people in and tell them about those products. When we talk about plastic waste, I know there's been a lot of media attention about plastic waste. Dow is very serious about this. We believe that plastics is one of the most sustainable products in packaging, in waste, but we don't want to see it in our rivers and we don't want to see it in our oceans. But we feel that we don't have a plastic problem, Tim, we have a waste issue. And we are all in at trying to solve that.
Trying to figure it out. You know, one of the things that's always struck me, Tommy, and you can address this maybe, is that the industry is often attacked by outsiders, activists, environmentalists. And the thing I always say is I'm an environmentalist too. I work in the industry, but no one wants cleaner air and cleaner water more than I do. And the thousands of Dow employees in Louisiana feel the same way.
You're absolutely right. And when you have this conversation in Louisiana, you can even go further. We all know that on the weekends, we love to be in our boats,
yes, on
the water. We want to be able to fish in clean lakes, in bayous. We want to know that if we're sitting watching the ships going up and down the Mississippi River, that water is clean. We, in our industry, and Dow is really leading on this across the globe right now, we are stewards of the environment.
Sure.
And we understand the role of our products, but we also know that there's the proper place for all of those.
And you have a responsibility, and you take care of that responsibility. Let's take a break. I want to come back, and I want to talk about specifically doing business in Louisiana. We're visiting with Tommy Faucheaux and Stacey Gautreau of Dow. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
Since 1919, we've designed and constructed hundreds of industrial plants, roads, ships, dams, and executed some of the most complex jobs in the world. In fact, our quality and dependability are legendary. Today, the legend continues as Brown & Root delivers engineering, construction, maintenance, and industrial specialty services throughout the U.S. and the world from our headquarters here in Louisiana. We are Brown & Root.
ExxonMobil Baton Rouge keeps the local economy rolling. Our new aviation project created hundreds of jobs, drove millions of dollars to local businesses, and poured thousands more into our community to improve schools. 1 in 8 jobs in our parish can be traced back to ExxonMobil. Tomorrow's Baton Rouge is built by what we do today. A little energy goes a long way. ExxonMobil Baton Rouge. Energy lives here.
The 1012 Industry Report is excited to announce the 1012 Industry Weekly. This e-newsletter is free and comes to your inbox every Tuesday. All you have to do is sign up at 1012industryreport.com. 1012 Industry Report is an award-winning magazine serving South Louisiana's petrochemical and oil and gas industries. From Lake Charles to Baton Rouge and New Orleans, we cover the news, people, projects, and issues that matter to industry. The 1012 Industry Report magazine and weekly email. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stacey, Gautreau, and Tommy Faucheaux of Dow are our guests. Tommy, we talked in the first segment about the new Dow. Still going to be a tremendous economic driver in this state and globally, as it always has been, and you can touch on that a little bit. But one of the things we like to talk about on this show is competitiveness and the business environment in Louisiana. We've worn the discussion on ITEP out. I know you've got some thoughts on that as well. But let's talk about overall cost of doing business in our state and how competitive we are with a lot of our neighboring states.
Sure. So you referenced the new Dow is going to be a big company, a $50 billion company. We do business in countries, states. I mean, think.
It's global. That's right.
When you come to Louisiana, as you would when you go to Texas or any other location, you want to know that you are operating a facility that is respected by the community, respected by local government. You want to know that you can compete in that local market, and you want to know that you can compete, whether it be regionally or internationally. What we have found in Louisiana is that we've had some rough conversations the last few years, and some of the discussion has not always been positive when it comes to total cost. There's been a lot of focus on ITEP, as there should be, because...
and let me make sure our viewers understand, we're talking about Louisiana's premier business incentive and economic development tool, the Industrial Tax Exemption Program, ITEP.
Right. There are many positives that come from ITEP. The data tells us very clearly. The parishes with the larger number of exemptions under ITEP also have the highest revenues, and in many cases, the higher teacher salaries, and you can just go down the list. The positives of ITEP are clear. But what we're saying is it's the total cost of working in that individual parish. What is the combined sales tax rate? What are the millage rates overall? And then you start to think about some of the other things that people don't necessarily talk about. We always talk about taxes, but what is the cost of trucks staying on the road too long?
Right.
What is the cost to the company when you lose employees, for example, because 15 years ago when they joined Dow, they were driving 30 minutes one way to work, and today they have the same mileage in commute, but they're driving an hour and 45 minutes. And they decide, you know what, I want to see T-ball and dance. I don't want to necessarily spend every morning and night on the highway.
Part of that overall cost of doing business is, quite frankly, as you mentioned, a quality of life issue for your employees, right? And can you keep the best and the brightest in a facility like Dow on Highway 1 in Plaquemine, Louisiana, when there are those difficulties? So it's an overall big picture cost of doing business as compared to Texas, as compared to Mississippi and Alabama or California, or quite frankly, places around the globe where more investment could go.
Right now, when you talk about investment, there's a lot of talk about Louisiana and Texas. The U.S. Gulf Coast is prime for growth.
Right.
However, projects that could come to Texas and Louisiana could easily go to Canada, Argentina, possibly China. There are people working every single day to beat Louisiana's, from a cost perspective, and we have to be mindful of that. If we try to ignore it, we're selling ourselves short. This fall, we're going to be talking with candidates. We're going to be spending time in the elections, making sure that those issues that we think really hit our costs. Infrastructure is costing Dow money, as it is other businesses. Some increased taxes, sales tax increases over the past 3 to 5 years, costing money. It's one thing to spend more money, but then also the question is, okay, so maybe it was time to spend a little more. What did we get back?
Right.
Did the highways get fixed, et cetera?
And that's what I want to turn to Stacey on is, look, we have to invest in our priorities, right? We can argue, and I think we can argue successfully, that Louisiana's government spends too much money on too many things. But we have to be willing to invest in those priorities. And one of those priorities is infrastructure. Now, we're going to talk education a little bit in the next segment. But specifically, one of the tools that is being considered and has been considered for improving Louisiana's overall infrastructure, and you think about a $13 to $14 billion backlog on the existing system and another $13 to $15 billion of needed major projects, we're looking at $28 to $30 billion in infrastructure needs in this state. A gas tax has been proposed. No one likes to support higher taxes, but we might need to look at something like that in terms of revenue to fund our infrastructure.
Well, Tim, I do think, and we at Dow think that you have to look at this as a state issue. I think there have been some great people in order to get the ball moving has looked at this from a regional perspective, and we know on our west side of the river right there in Plaquemine, we've been looking at it for years from a local perspective. But when you think about where we're sending product, where our community residents are going to work, where they're going to the doctor, where they're going to school, the investment in the chemical industry along that river corridor is so big that one community cannot fuel it all. So you think we bring in people in a workforce from a region, we actually bring in employees from a super region. So do all our neighbors down the river. So you can't go solve this infrastructure traffic gridlock by local parishes or a region. Someone in the state, someone from a state level has to lead. And I think you need funding solutions from a state level to lead.
Jump in, Tom.
Yeah, Stacey is absolutely correct. So, we expect this legislative session, for example, and it's not going to end with this legislative session. The conversation around a state gas tax increase is going to continue. I think it's going to pick up pace a little bit. And you're right, nobody wants to pay more taxes. No company wants to pay more taxes. But I think what we've seen is Louisiana's transportation infrastructure problem is growing much faster than any reforms can do all by itself. We're going to have a serious conversation about putting more money, and that may mean increase gas.
How are we going to invest in that priority? Let's take a break. There's a lot more to talk about. We're visiting with Tommy Faucheaux and Stacey Gautreau of Dow. You're watching the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.
I just see the positive things on the horizon, and BRAC is a real integral part of that.
BRAC's taken a very forward role in trying to help align people and align strategies and align solutions.
You'll find that you'll have an opportunity at BRAC to make a difference.
It's about being a part of conversations and really having a voice in terms of how we move the city forward.
A lot of my friends who were in college and stuff, which is great. It wasn't the route for me, you know, and financially, I know it's tough on a lot of people, so I saw welding. At first, my instinct was like, what pays the most money? You know, so I was like, welding, that's the way to go. It made a great living for me and my family. You can always work your way up. There's multiple ladders, and really the sky's the limit. You know, I thought I got to the max with as high as I can go with welding. As high as you want to grow, you can absolutely achieve it.
Promoting workplace safety and family wellness. That's our motto at Gulf Coast Occupational Medicine. The Gulf Coast staff is made up of some of the most knowledgeable and hardest working medical professionals in Louisiana. We care about your safety and your bottom line. With 8 convenient locations in the greater Baton Rouge area, our services include injury management, physical exams, medical surveillance, and substance abuse testing. For more information, visit us on the web at gcombr.info and ride the wave to safety.
Welcome back to the Louisiana Business and Industry Show. Stacey Gautreau and Tommy Faucheaux of Dow are our guests. We talked a little bit about the cost of doing business in Louisiana in the last segment and how critically important it is that Louisiana remain competitive with its neighboring states and in fact globally. One of the things that impacts business is regulation. Companies like Dow are significantly impacted by state and federal and local regulation. Talk a little bit about that, Tommy, and talk about your relationship with state regulators in Louisiana.
Sure. So smart regulation is a policy area we're really focusing on this year. We have enjoyed really strong relationships with our state level regulators. You know, we're fortunate in Louisiana. We don't have, like some states, a lot of local regulators, and that's a good thing. We don't want that. But at the state level, we have enjoyed a good relationship, particularly in our industry with LDEQ, Dr. Brown and his staff. What we have found is that whenever we need to work with them, whether we need help with something or vice versa, they need something from us. They have a question. They want to know more. They want to come see something. Those conversations always happen with best interest of the state and the company at heart. They don't want to make it hard for us to do business in the regulatory world, and we don't want to make it difficult for state regulators to have to turn to their constituents, the citizens of Louisiana, and have a hard conversation. It really is. I want to give credit that we have enjoyed a good relationship with our state level regulators in the last several years.
Well, you mentioned the term smart regulation, right? I don't think any of us would argue that there is no need for regulation of any kind of industry, right? You're always going to have some actor out there that makes a mistake and needs to be checked. But when you have a relationship and you can think about doing things jointly and you can discuss problems and come up with joint solutions to those problems, and there is an open line of communication between the company and the regulators, that's the best case scenario for everyone. If we can focus regulations on those that have the most impact and those that are most critically needed, we can enforce those fairly and evenly across the board. That's what a company like Dow looks for.
Yeah, and you know, the conversation for Dow always starts at the local level. We are regularly meeting at both our St. Charles and our Plaquemine sites with our local community advisory panels, who, for us, the way we structure our caps, those are local officials.
Right.
They represent the people who live in our parishes where we operate. We want to know from them if there's a problem long before it becomes an issue at the state level. And I think we've seen some respect from our friends in Baton Rouge for that, because we don't wait for somebody to facilitate a conversation with us, between us and our communities. We want them to know what we're doing. If there's going to be a flare, we're going to talk to them about it. If there's something that they want to know, we're going to answer the phone and we're going to listen. And that's very important, and I think that is one of the reasons why when we come to Baton Rouge to talk with our regulators, it's a positive conversation. They know we're all wanting to make Louisiana safer and better.
I've worked with and around Dow now for 30 years in my career, and I think, quite frankly, that's one of the things that's marked your company, that transparency, that willing to communicate. It has served you well. And Stacey, that's one of the things that you are most responsible for in your role at Dow.
Absolutely.
Talk about that communication and your relationships with the communities where you exist.
Well, you know, we started off talking about the new Dow, and so that Dow diamond is going to be the same in the new Dow. That's a $50 billion diamond. And you know what else is the same? Our value, our core value of respect for all people. That is not changing. So when you talk about knowing what that diamond means when you see it, that is what it is. It's respect for all people, and that goes for our community. And like Tommy said, there is an open dialogue. We will meet and talk with anyone. I know there are groups out there that like to scare people about chemicals. I understand that. It's part of our business. Our job is not to scare anyone. Our job is to talk with people openly and explain what this is, what's going on behind this fence line, what it means for your community. And let's face it, I mean, we're in the business of making chemicals. People don't always know what that means. So if there's a new regulation out on a certain chemical or a certain product, let's talk about it. If a company in another state has had an issue with handling this product safely and you think it might impact your community, let's talk about it. Right. But it is personal. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it's not personal. No, it is personal, and it does go back to relationships. And so that's what makes my job a good gig, is because I know those relationships that we've built in that community, they're going to come back to us and they're going to tell us, and we're going to talk openly. We got about a little over a minute left here, so I want to talk about education. Dow's commitment to its communities through its educational support, particularly STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. You look at this from birth through career. Give us 1 minute on educational support and what you guys are doing. 1 minute, well, we love STEM education. And, you know, when you talk about respect for all people, in the new Dow, our ambition is to be the most innovative, customer-centric, inclusive, sustainable material science company in the world. And that inclusive is very important to us. So when we talk about STEM education, we do believe in women in STEM education. We do believe in people who speak different languages, who come from all different walks of life. Those who are less fortunate, right? Absolutely. And so you can see that, Tim, in our local investments, everywhere from LSU to Southern University, or both strategic universities for us. You can see it in the way we handle STEM education. We don't do STEM entertainment. We do systemic, curriculum-driven STEM education so that it will make a difference in someone's life. Well, in long term, there's value to the community, there's value to the company, there's value to the state, and there's value to our economy. I wish we had another hour to talk because there's so many wonderful things we could talk about. But Stacey, Gautreau, Tommy Faucheaux, Dow Chemical Company, thank you for the great work that you do individually and for the great work that your company does in the state and for our economy. We're going to have you on back again sometime soon, and we'll watch closely. Thank you. That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next week at this very same time for another edition of the Louisiana Business and Industry Show.